Hello world, this is Shruti Pandey again, and this is a continuation of the podcast that I've been having with Bindi, the CEO of GoVida. But I'm pretty sure if you watch the first part, you're here to listen to more of her story and not wanting to recap or taking away from her. But she's one hell of a person, like a ball of fire is what I say. And it's so amazing to learn from her. And I hope you understand all the journey and lessons that she's sharing with us has culminated into the title, the tag that she has of a CEO, but she's so much more than that. And thank you, Bindi, for giving me your extra time and having this part two for all of us and for people to learn even more from you.
No, you're welcome. It was really nice to chat to you last time, so I'm excited to continue.
So before I dive into the last question that I have for you, can we do like a bonus question or a fun activity kind of a thing? Because you really don't just wear multiple hats at work, but you just juggle so many hats in your life in general. So if I were to ask you like what different extracurricular activities, like you have been doing this past week or maybe 2 weeks, like can you share that with us if that's not too probing into your personal life, and if you're happy to share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most of my extracurricular activities at the moment are probably on the physical front, but I just love it. I think the problem is, I don't know if it's a problem, but I have way too much creative energy and I have to channel it to places. And I was talking to my leadership coach yesterday, and we were just saying that everybody recharges their batteries in a different way. And when I say recharge, I'm not talking about get your sleep and nutrition. I'm talking about recharge to become the person that you are truly, when you're centered and you are being you. What is it that you need to recharge that battery? I'm almost plugging my solar panel into the sun and trying to extract all the rays so I can actually, and so that for me comes from, I guess, things like dance. I do this week. I've been a bit obsessed actually because I'm just like wanting to learn so many different dance forms. So recently I've been doing about 3 or 4 dance classes a week. So I've been doing street dance for several years now. So I've been trying out Caribbean and also Afro mix. And musical, actually. Musical isn't really my style usually, but I've absolutely loved it. And they're just so different, and they use your body in different ways. It's very expressive in a different ways. I've done Indian dance for several years. I did Brazilian samba in Singapore, but basically each dance form, because there's so much of an element of their culture in that it just gives you the opportunity to express in different ways, and which I love. Just love the energy, and it's one of those activities where you are just in the moment. I mean, I can't be dancing and thinking about my next meeting, for example. You're just in the moment. It's completely in the zone, and I love that feeling. So dance, I just love. And then I think the biggest thing, we've probably talked about this before, is my strength and conditioning and coaching that I do with my fitness coach, which is an element of, I guess, probably called strongman activities, which I love. He introduced me to all that stuff, and it's just been incredible, life-changing actually. So I love every session I do with Ian. The thing is though, it's not just physical stimulation, it's intellectual stimulation. I think I mentioned it last time as well. Every time I walk out the gym, I just feel like my cognitive ability and my intellectual capabilities actually probably works more, and obviously your body's generating chemicals when you're training, but I just feel like I get so much more from it. But it's not just about the stuff in the gym, I guess, like with my physio as well, because they have so much knowledge and they are in they've worked in the sporting world as well and worked with elite athletes, so they also bring a vast amount of knowledge about body physics and how your body is working and what it's doing. And so there's just so much more, so much powerful in terms of knowledge and skills that you learn from them. So yeah, so it's been fun. And I guess there was one fun activity, which was art. I was always told in school that I'm sure I was told in school that I actually can't draw, and I didn't do art. So you can't draw, you can't act, you can't sing, so don't do any of those things. So later in life, I decided to just explore art classes, and I've absolutely loved painting and drawing and messing about with charcoal. And you just meet so many different people in these sort of workshops from completely different walks of life. I met somebody in one of my sessions. She was, her job involved tasting tea. I was like, and she'd gone to India to study everything about different teas and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, how incredible. Yeah, as a job, right? And I was like, I love tea. I should do it. I just drink tea every day. I should be a tea taster. That would be perfect. Yes. So as you can see, my batteries are recharged from human connection, really. I suppose that's what it really comes down to. And the power of it in every form, whether that's in the gym. As soon as you walk in, you can feel that sense of on a mission. Everybody's there to make a change, do a difference. You walk into a dance studio and just that it's just incredible. I always have this, I find it fascinating that when you bring people together to dance, the shared purpose is just there. It's not, you don't have to say it. We're all there for the same reason. And I think it's that energy, that's what I bounce off. So that's what I've been up to. I might have watched some Netflix as well.
I want to understand how many hours in a day do you have, first of all? And is there anything that you like would leave for the others to do? Like, is there anything that you don't do? And my jaw literally dropped like so many times when you mentioned all the different dance forms that you've been doing, like street dancing. Like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Afro? Oh my goodness gracious. Like, where do you get all that energy from, and where do you get all that? I mean, I know as a person, as a human, I want to do so many of the things, but I think I keep on to my excuses too much. I hold on to them very tightly, and maybe I hope I get inspired to, start ticking my checkbox. And if I do, Bindi, I would definitely let you know, because you've inspired me to, just shake it off, dear, and just go ahead and live your life. Because is there anything that you don't do? Really? Anything at all that you don't do?
Never mastered any sport that involves an extension of my hand. So badminton or tennis, I could never do that. I was more of a netball, basketball. I need physical contact. It's just weird actually, because I'm like, get me on a tennis court, I will miss every ball that's thrown at me. But but yes, of course, there's lots of things that I probably haven't tried. But I think I don't know, it's always been there since young. I think it's always been one of those things of exploring and trying something for at least once, see how I find it. And there's the constant passion for learning and growth, and I'm also obsessed about building multiple neural networks in my brain.
Okay, oh gosh, I don't feel like ending this answer, because this is so much more fun than the serious questions that I'm going to ask you. But I really want people to, look at the totality of this podcast and like everything that you have actually helped us understand. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be a much evolved person after this podcast recording. Thank you so much for inspiring me in multiple ways. And I want to ask you, I kept the most difficult question for the last. It might be the hard-hitting one, the monotonous one, the one that people don't want to talk, because it's so goddamn hard. But I really want to ask you, as a female, like I as a female, I know that it's not easy for anybody to have a life in corporate, to have a career in corporate, right? It could be a man, a woman, a transgender, whoever that might be. But given the cultural aspects and many other aspects, it's still a little difficult for women to pursue a career, right? Like, I want to understand, why is it so much more difficult for a woman to choose between a career and a life, right? And like, why does it have to be so difficult for a woman to have a career? Like, who better to ask this question to? And I genuinely want to understand, Bindi. And I know you will have your own flair to this answer, but yeah, please help me understand, like, why is it so difficult?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because I feel like we have been battling this for years, and we'll probably continue battling it for years, I think. But I think there's always a need to, I guess, be grateful for and respect those that have come before us and had an influence on making the changes that they possibly didn't have when it was their time. So there's always a gratefulness for that, right? Because even though things might not have moved as fast as we wanted to, the stuff that we are doing today is because somebody else before has taken the step to make the change. So I think from my experience, because I've worked across multiple countries as well and cultures, the behavior or the process or the beliefs around this are quite varied, because I feel like in the different cultures that I've worked in, what society's expectations are of women or men has greatly influenced what's actually happening in the professional world as well. So my exposure and experience of working in Asia compared to working in the UK, for example, has been very different. But even countries within Asia, right? So Singapore was very different to India, or Japan very different to Hong Kong. And sometimes it can get frustrating because you just sat there thinking, why is this happening? Why is it happening? You know, and why is somebody being treated differently because of their gender, for example? So there's two things I think I've done off the back of it. Firstly, I'm in a leadership role, right? And I have been for some time. So I've always had a ability to drive change or influence change, right? So I can take steps to make something happen, even if it's just impacting one or two people. If I'm creating opportunities for other strong female leaders to come in, or I'm considering diversity when I'm building my teams, and as I said before as well, not just gender diversity from all aspects, cognitive in particular, then I can influence that change, right? In many ways, it just doesn't just have to be from a leadership perspective. There's ways to get involved in mentorship programs. I had a friend of mine contact me last year from Johannesburg to speak to a young girl who wanted to get into technology. So I had a conversation with her, and really for me, it was about how do I make her aware of what's possible, because she won't be told it. And it's probably very narrow in terms of what she thinks she can do. And that's exactly what happened, right? So she contacted me afterwards and said, you know, it's opened my eyes to so many different possibilities that she wasn't aware of before. And this is somebody at the other side of the world, right, that I'm talking to and potentially influencing. So I think being able to do that is really important. I've got two young nieces as well, 10 and 7. So I want to make sure that I'm setting the example for them to be able to then go off and do what they want. And it's really interesting because my older niece she's really strong-headed as well, and she's just I know she's going to be a powerhouse anyways, and she's also obsessed with learning. So but yeah, so it's that thing we can definitely, if you're in a position where you can influence, and I think you should definitely do your best to do that and create opportunities for people, right? And I think for me, because I've always believed that my success lies in making not myself redundant, but reducing or the dependency on me so that my team can move forward, because then that's how you create opportunities for others, right, to grow and evolve. So that's what I try to do. It's interesting because I was in a situation where I was asked by an organisation to get involved in having a discussion around how do we get more females in leadership and how do we drive things forward. And this is where I think society and culture plays a big part, because I turned up to that session. It was in Asia actually, and I had the hope that we were discussing this conversation with HR, and we were having this conversation around, you know, how do we drive success for females? How do we help them, you know, succeed in their careers, move to leadership? And this is what's quite powerful in terms of how society plays a part, right, and beliefs, because every woman in that room was saying what they believed the HR leader needed to hear or the leadership needed to hear. They were not really expressing what the problem was. And this is, for me, really powerful, because when it came to me, I was the rebel, and I was like, well, actually, this is how it is, and I was laid out what I believed were the problems and that needed resolving, and it just completely changed the dynamics of the whole meeting, because every woman that followed me completely laid on the table all the problems that were there that needed to be addressed to help these women move forward. And I think the key thing then is that if you're in a position to do so, then open the doors for communication. It takes there's one quote that is actually related to dance, but I love it. One step can set an entire generation free. And I love it because it just means it just takes one person to take a step. And suddenly you have created a space for communication for so many more around you. Whatever topic that is, it could be related to women in leadership. It could also be related to parenthood, or it could be related to challenge around mental health. It doesn't matter what it is. It's actually having the courage to step up. And if you're in a position to do so, especially if you're in an authoritative position, because naturally people tend to, the shadow of the leader, they call it, right? They'll tend to follow. Then just do it. So that's what I think from a leadership perspective, and the change that I can drive if I think about leaderships. I think about myself. I'm Punjabi, right? So, well, like, since when have you ever met a Punjabi that says they can't achieve something? Like, so for me, I mean, despite any blockers or people, putting my brakes on when I'm in the fast lane trying to get ahead. I think that the passion that's ignited inside me and my drive for success and what I wanted to achieve just allowed me to push past those barriers and stand up and make a call, and maybe even say stuff that was a little bit too difficult, and possibly could have even put me in a situation where I could have lost my positions or something, because I was actually standing up because people want you to be in a particular norm and box, whatever. But I think the thing is, though, if you really want to move forward, you will always have these blockers, and it doesn't always have to be related to gender. It can be anything. And you have to work out, are you going to fight those and build your resilience and get through it? Or are you going to let them stop you and, go into reverse and go backwards? Well, I was definitely never going to go backwards. My view is I'm in the fast lane, hopefully in my Bentley, and just get out of my way, because I've got somewhere to go and I can't afford for other people to pull me back. So I think women are so fierce and strong, and there's so many powerful women out there that have inspired me, right from my grandma, who was like a powerhouse, to some of the amazing leaders that I've worked with in my team and with other departments as well. And they're just amazing. They're just brilliant. They are just powerhouses. So I think for any women out there that really want to be successful in their careers and in their lives, because you can have both, and why can't we have both, right? I think just tap into your skills and abilities, which come quite naturally to women because we are wired differently. And just tap into them, and just and don't ever let anybody say to you that you can't do something. That would be my advice.
You just don't cease to amaze, and when you were sharing your experiences, I started to, remember the time when you're working specifically at investment banks, and they have these sessions where only women are called, and they'll be like, okay, we want to understand what are the problems, how we can help you accelerate the career. And you reminded me of certain times, and I don't see myself as a senior or a leader or whatever. And some of the times I was really young, like 5 years experience or 6 years experience or whatever in totality. And you rightly said that, like, all of us would just be sitting and not talking about stuff. And I would be of another opinion. Like, if we are called and they are asking, like, what is the problem? Like, why not share what is the problem? And it really takes one person, one small spark of fire, and it changes the entire narrative. I think I probably would have had a twinkle in my eye or something, because you actually said something which is very relevant. And why just these meetings which are very women centric. I mean, you would have been a part of very many town halls, right, where the EDs are talking and stuff like that, you know. And I remember of one of the time when I was like, you've written ownership on the board as one of the qualities, but why don't you let us have that ownership? And you know, every single man after that call where everybody goes to the water cooler was like, Shruti, you asked something which we wanted to ask, and thank you for doing that. Not just women, but even men coming up to you and you're like, wow, really? You wanted to ask, but you didn't? Like, why? Why didn't you ask? You should have. They opened the floor and they were like, we want to understand, then why not? And thank you. Thank you so much
There
for
is like, sorry.
so honest with that answer. I know how difficult that question is. And again, to you, because you were talking about something, you had something to say.
Yeah, just one other thing I just wanted to say, that has been an experience in my life which was really powerful, because it taught me something. In reflection now, in hindsight, when I think about it, it's really powerful. At the time, I probably didn't realize the power of it because I was quite young. But I used to do martial arts, right? And so it's a very male-dominated sport, right? And I remember I was sparring, so we were fighting basically, right? And there was lots of, like, you know, 6 foot tall strong men in the session, and there was one guy that we were ready to fight, right? So he was going to be kicking me, and I had to basically move out of the way and make sure I block him. Okay. And he said to me, he says, I don't care about your gender, I don't care about your age, all I see is that black belt around your waist, and that's how you're going to be treated. And I was like, at the time I was like, if I don't move, this guy is going to knock me out. Surely he did come up with speed. I was able to move, obviously, and I did move. But just those words is really powerful, because in that martial art, now in hindsight, what it taught me was that my achievement is what mattered, nothing else. So it didn't matter. It was just that black belt around my waist, and I was on par and equal to everybody else in that room that had a black belt around their waist. So I wasn't treated any differently because of my size, my age, my color, my gender. And at the time, because I was quite young, I probably just thought, if I don't move, he's going to kill me. Now, when I think about it, I think that message is so powerful. And again, if I come back to relating it to, you know, picking up things and how you can relate them, I'm just thinking, if in a sport like that, where it's an amazing sport because it teaches you so much about so many different things, can apply equality, then, you know, why can't you actually see what's working there and apply it in other setups, right?
Absolutely. The fact that, I mean, I wanted to ask you, but you already answered the part when you were telling me the story, because the best thing was they didn't tell you that, okay, Bindi, you are a girl, so we'll let you fight with the girl. That was the best thing. Like, that sport is so amazing. And I sometimes call my own parents hypocrite, because they put my younger brother into karate, but never did they let me do that. And now my mom is like, what's stopping you? Go join a class. I was like, yeah, with the young kids. And it would be so funny for me to learn with them. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It is such a male dominated sport and arena. And while I can only imagine how it would have felt if somebody, that to a man, saying something like that in the sport of that moment when he's about to hit you, and you're like, oh my gosh, what is he going to do to me? But wow, I mean, I respect him more for the fact that he is not discriminating you on any ground whatsoever. Massive respect. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
you have a classic trait of, you know, teaching things and making things happen and drawing the message like a lightning rod stuck somewhere. Oh my goodness gracious, Bindi, you are so amazing, and I'm so proud of you in every single aspect, and in your totality, right from you being a amazing Punjabi to such amazing inspiration to your nieces, to a great leader that I saw when I was maybe nearly starting my career, and I was like, yeah, we should be doing something like her. And thank you for always being that amazing driving force. In case you have any other parting thoughts that you may want to share before we wrap this up, more than happy to hear you out.
I think if you are in a position where you can make a change, then make that change and make a difference, right? Because you just don't know what impact you're having. And so I think always take that step for others, right? And also, if you have opportunities and things that come your way, take them, because you don't know who else you will inspire to then follow in your footsteps. So I think those would probably be my 2 pieces of advice.
Awesome. That's the best piece of advice I've heard in a very long time. So thank you so much, Bindi. Thank you so much for sharing your life journey and experiences with us so unabashedly and so transparently and so honestly. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.